Thank you. The escalation of the situation on the ground is extremely worrying and appalling. The region is on the brink of a full-scale war and unprecedented humanitarian catastrophe. We unequivocally condemn the acts of extreme brutality, killings, and the horrifying scale of violence. Any killings and violence against peaceful civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian citizens, is inadmissible. What happened on October 7 on Israeli territory is unacceptable. Israel, by all means, has the right to protect its own citizens. We also reiterate the right of Israel to ensure its security. However, there are two inseparable dimensions of the unfolding tragedy, and we can't highlight one and ignore the other. Indiscriminate shellings of residential areas in Gaza, cutting this territory from water and electricity, its blockade, which brings to our minds in particular the memories of the siege of Leningrad during the Second World War, are also unacceptable. There are human lives that matter most. Israel's actions of collective punishment of Gaza citizens, as well as its demands to evacuate more than 1 million civilians in 24 hours and concentrate them in a de facto ghetto in the south of the sector, are also unacceptable and can lead to irreversible catastrophic consequences regionally and globally. The root causes of this situation are of critical importance. Our Western colleagues do their best to promote the narrative that the current escalation happened out of the blue because a band of savage terrorists attacked Israeli civilians. The US is especially insistent that the whole situation was unprovoked and Hamas are outcasts enjoying no support. If it were so, there would be no protests in the West Bank against Israel's actions and no widespread Arab and Muslim support for Palestine. We shouldn't ignore that the current flare-up of violence happens against the background of Israel's systematic violations of the decisions of the UN Security Council and the General Assembly, including the illegal expansion of settlements, which is regularly condemned by the vast majority of UN member states. We are all appalled by the fact that the Palestinians are being forcefully ousted from their land and their houses demolished. Any attempt to ignore this context is a clear manipulation of facts, which we cannot support. Let me be clear, the responsibility for the looming war in the Middle East, to a large extent, lies on the United States. It is Washington that recklessly and selfishly blocked the work of the Middle East Quartet of international mediators in an effort to monopolize the peace process and limit it to imposing an economic peace with Israel on the Palestinians and other Arab countries without solving the Palestinian question. We consistently warned against this, saying it will backfire one day. So it did. You all know well that for years the US blocked any reaction, any signal from the UN Security Council, any modest call for exercising restraint, claiming that its quiet regional diplomacy is more effective. Well, now it is obvious that it has failed. In the current circumstances, Russia cannot accept the complete inaction and lack of any reaction on the part of the UN Security Council, as well as the UN Secretariat. As you could have noticed, not a single Western delegation called for an open meeting on the situation in the Middle East, while they use every fake pretext to call for the discussions of the situation in Ukraine for obvious political reasons. They are insisting to hold 3 monthly meetings on Syria to show that the Council is allegedly still preoccupied with this issue and to attack Syrian government, but they don't find courage to call for a meeting on the situation which is directly affecting international peace and security and has dire, immense humanitarian consequences.